Hello everyone, and welcome to the weekly Uno live stream. I'm going to be taking a look at a few Uno features and talk about what's happening in Uno, and try to fix some issues that we have been having reported by our users. So in general, I'm doing lots of things. It depends on what people are asking for during the stream, or what issues we've been encountering during the week. And I'm going to be talking about one thing today. I'm probably going to be making a snip of this one. It's about WebAssembly debugging. So WebAssembly debugging is something that's not enabled by default yet, especially when creating an application using the Windows, the Visual Studio templates in Uno platforms. So what I'm going to do is walk you through the creation of a project to enable debugging and also moving to .NET 5. So it's something that we're going to be adjusting in the next release of Uno, where the .NET team has been very, very active with regards to WebAssembly, and the stability of the platform has increased significantly to a point where we're now able to make a new version. We've been able to make a new version of the Uno Bootstrapper, which is the package that allows to create a very simple application for WebAssembly, and which the Uno platform is using on top of. So actually, I can probably add that one to the list. So it's the Uno wasn't the Bootstrap package. So it's a simple NuGet package that enables to take any .NET library and turn it into something that can run on the web. So it allows to make a very small application on console, but if you want to make a bigger application, it has a UI. That's where Uno comes into play. So I'm gonna make an app 3 to be very original, and the application by default is going to be, for the current template, is going to be targeting net standard 2. So when we are saying net standard 2 is that there are multiple versions of the .NET runtime that are available, and Uno has been targeting both. It's been providing the ability to run on top of mono/mono, which is the .NET runtime that the mono runtime has been running for a very long time. So if we go here, and that was the first version of the .NET runtime that was supporting WebAssembly, and we translated that over to when you're making a project in Uno, which runs for the target framework net standard 2, then it was using the mono runtime, so the original .NET the original mono runtime. So now that the .NET team has been working to enable that for .NET 6, now we've moved over to provide a way to get those applications running on .NET 5 and 6. So if you're moving to use the target framework .NET 5, then it will enable the Bootstrapper to run on top of .NET 6. So it makes a bit of difference, but the idea is that for you as a user, if you're targeting .NET 5, then you're running target framework .NET 5 here. So if you move this to .NET 5, then you will be using the latest builds that the .NET team has been providing for WebAssembly. Another thing that needs to be changed is the Bootstrapper. So 1.3.4 was the version that was providing the mono runtime, so the mono/mono repository version of the runtime. And now we want to update that to the latest version, which is now in the .NET/runtime repository on GitHub. So we can move that to 2.1.0. Same thing for that one, so 2.1.0. And so that's the first thing that we need to change. And then once we save, then Visual Studio is going to be downloading a few things, and you will see here once it's done. So it's probably too fast because I restored it already. And then we can go to here. So when we build this, I'm going to start the application using just IS Express. You will see that the application is building and creating a small website. So you can see it's downloading the .NET runtime. So the the .NET runtime built on top of .NET/runtime. So we're talking here, the repository that's available here. So this is the original mono, and we get now the .NET runtime that's available in that repo. And it was a move. So they took the mono runtime and merged it into the .NET runtime repository. So you can see here the same sources that were originally in the mono repo are now in the .NET runtime repo. So now that we have our application building here, it's still building. So one of the two things that we have not yet integrated is to all just adjust a little bit the use of the linker, but that's something that's not done yet. So there it is. So that's the application running there. So your application is now running using .NET 6 underneath, because that's the runtime, but even though it's started in .NET 5, so because it's backward compatible. So you don't need to target .NET 6. We're not supporting .NET 6 completely yet because the tooling is not yet completely stable on the .NET 6 side, but the runtime is good enough. So you can now use that version. Now, what we want to do is being able to hit a breakpoint. So that is something that needs to be adjusted here. So let's make a small button, in our application. So let's add a stack panel and put inside a button with a click handler. I'm gonna add an X bind here on click. I'm gonna go into the code behind to add this handler. And then I'm going to add also a small text block so that I can change the content so that we see that it actually does something. So I'm calling it status, for instance. And I also want to have some text in my button. Click me. Okay. So now I'm going to change the status here so that it goes to set the text to be, say, datetime offset.now to string. So it's just going to show the date. Okay, so that's that. So now if I start my application and I put a breakpoint, we'll see that the application is doing nothing. So one thing I can change already so that we don't spend too much time waiting on. So lots of the documentation for the Bootstrapper are available here. So one of the things that you may want to disable if you want a faster loop is to disable the linker in debug configuration. So let's do this. If we're in here in the debug configuration, we can do something like that. So we disable the linker. Probably going to add that maybe comment it out by default, so it makes it easier for developers to change it. We don't want that to be enabled by default because it hides exceptions and features. Because if you want to do AOT, for instance, so faster compilation for WebAssembly, then disabling the linker will hide some issues and make and prevent you from making your application smaller. So it's something that's quite important to not alter too much. So that's the one. So let's try to rebuild that, and you'll see that when we run the application, then we're going to get our text showing up properly. If I click here, I get the time. So when I click again, it updates. And now what I want to do is when I start my application, I want to be able to break here and see what's happening. So if I press F5 at the beginning, you will see that nothing happens, and you will see that this is staying with the question mark here, the exclamation point here, that says that the no symbols have been loaded. So what this means is that there's one line to add in the WebAssembly project. In the launch setting.json, you need to add something additional. So if you go to the Bootstrapper documentation, at the beginning, you have a few things that you need to adjust. So you have how to use the Visual Studio 2019 debugger, and there's a line that needs to be added below each line that says launch browser true. So we take that line, we go back to the application, and for each launch browser line that we can see here, we're going to add the inspect URI method. So what that will do is that will instruct the Visual Studio to connect to the running application to poke through to the debugger that's running inside of the application. So that's what Visual Studio is doing when running there. So when we start again, we can see now that the application starts, it takes a bit more time to start, but then a lot more information is happening in here when in the output. So this is something that that Microsoft is very interested in getting information for. So if you find issues with the debugger not running or not doing what you want it to do, that's something that needs to be reported to Microsoft, and they're very interested in getting those. So you can see now that the breakpoint is available, and if I click on the button, I'm hitting the breakpoint here. So one of the things that doesn't work yet is the locals function. So you can see here that there's that tooltip that doesn't appear properly. And watch, I'm not sure if that works yet. So we can try it out, but so that's the kind of things that Microsoft has been working on for the ability to debug applications properly. So it gives you an idea about the stack traces and a few other things, but it may not give you the whole set of features available just yet. So that's how to enable a few things. Oh, let's see. So that's source link. We can actually download the file and see where that goes. We can see that it's actually, it's something that's completely different. Okay, so it's just the application that got it running. So that's how to set up the debugger for now. We know that there are rough edges still. So being one of the fact that you can't hover onto features, but at least when you're executing something, the debugger is going to show you a few things, especially the stack trace, which sometimes is a bit more difficult to get. So that's for now the experience with the debugger using .NET 5 and the UNO platform. So stay tuned for more updates as we progress with the .NET team with regards to the features that have been added to Visual Studio. Okay, so now let's go to another feature. So there was something that was reported with the gallery application, and we're not sure if it's a regression or if it's something that doesn't work. But the idea is that we have an application here, and that's the UNO gallery, and that's in our canaries. We're gonna go to the canaries. So canaries is a way for us to validate in a set of applications that we have that everything's working properly and we're not breaking anything. And we can see there are a few things that are not working yet. So for instance, that application has been breaking for some time. That one is actually caused by Apple. There's a few things that are needed with provisioning profiles magic. So we need to get our ones back and adjust that. But that's the idea. So we're making sure that everything works properly. And the application that has the issue is the UNO gallery. So we're going to take a look at the canary. So that build is actually done every day. And it picks up all the latest builds for development builds from master or main branches that we have for all projects, so that we can ensure that we don't update manually all the projects by hand because there are too many, and that we can just test automatically a few things. So that one is tested automatically, but some things sometimes it doesn't work. So the report was that when we're going into material for the date picker, the date doesn't get selected properly. So let's go find that one out. So we got date picker, and when we select the date here and we change the date and we click OK, the date doesn't appear. So that's the actual case. So it doesn't work properly. So let's see, does it work with the default one? If we select the date, yes, it does. Okay, so that means that for some reason, there's a style that definitely is different for material. Let's see if it does it work with Cupertino. So that one, does it work there? No, it doesn't work either. So we definitely need to take a look at that. So what we're going to try to do is repro that outside of the larger application, because it may make, we probably need to change that. So what happens there is that's the default style for the Fluent DatePicker, and what we're doing for the material and Cupertino styling, theming, is that we're changing completely the style and themes and templates and all that to get to that material style. So we're going to take a look at what those styles are taking a look, what those styles are looking at. So let's go that way. So it's Uno platform, and it's Uno themes. I'm just going to clone this one. And clone a repository. Let's do this. So this is the first time I'm doing it, and the first time I'm cloning that one on this machine, but that should not be a problem. So it's going to show you how to debug that that feature on those on multiple projects, so not just inside of Uno itself. So a few questions. I have a question. So what 3D rendering engine can be used in Uno platform and work on iOS, web, Android, and Windows? So at this point, the only one that I can think of for now is Uro. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that one in English, to be sure. So let's go for that one. So I think it's Uro Sharp. There it is. So that's that one. So it dates back a bit, but it works for quite a few platforms. It doesn't work yet on WebAssembly because it's not something that people have been asking us to work on. But if you have a specific scenario that would be of interest to you, we can definitely take a look at it. Try opening an issue, and if you can make an application that works on iOS, iOS and Android should be working fine. With Uno, there's nothing that needs to be adjusted to get there. But if you want to make it work on WebAssembly specifically, that's one of the targets that may not work yet. So just let us know if that's of interest. I can see that it looks like for some reason it's a little bit blurry now. Well, that's not good. Let me see if I can do that better. No, it doesn't. Maybe I can do this and go back again. Nope, it doesn't help. So let's try again. So it looks like if I'm showing videos, for some reason it starts to get blurry. So let's go back to a version of that doesn't lag. So note for next time, not showing videos through remote desktop that way. Otherwise it gets blurry. Okay, so you had an application target. So Wancha says, reminding me many years ago I had an application targeting Android, Windows 10 mobile, and desktop in Optil district in Indonesia and using Uno platform. You did? No, that's pretty nice. Well, I'm pretty sure our CMO would like to have known about that. Yeah, drop us an email if you have something that at info@platform.uno. It's probably something that would be a lot of interest. Wolfshin, Lutz that is asking about are debug features only missing for WebAssembly? Yes, that's the only target that is missing debugging features because the debugger is progressing as we speak. For the other targets, Skia and others, it's the .NET 5 full debugger. Xamarin, same thing. It's the full debugger, so there's nothing that misses there. Yeah, it's just WebAssembly that's progressing as we go, but it's completely new. So I know they have been doing some interesting things. I just don't know yet if that is going to be integrated into the preview 4 of Visual Studio of the .NET runtime, the .NET 6, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so let's take a look at the application here and see if we can adjust a little bit there. So first thing is, oh, no video, otherwise it's gonna lag. So I'm gonna add back the linker option just to make sure that we're not spending too much time debugging. And we'll see if we can repro this issue manually. So let's do this. So when we take a look at the library itself, so we have a Cupertino and material, and inside we have a styles folder. In that styles folder, we have datepicker.xaml. And that one is actually containing all features and templates for that date picker. So we have the date picker flyout button. That one is, so that one would be, so we have multiple styles actually. So that we have a material secondary date picker style, and we have the date picker flyout button. So we have the one for not Windows and one for Windows. So let's take, so that's one for the date picker flyout presenter and material date picker style. So that's the style for the date picker. And we have the setter property here for the template. And then inside, we're going to get a few things, and namely, we got a date text here. So that one should be showing the selected date using the converter that's available here, but for some reason, it's not providing that. So what we're going to try to do is understand if the date that we're showing here is actually the right one. So do we have the proper binding? We have, is it doing the right thing? So we're going to update a few things. So first, I'm going to try to show, this is a grid. I'm going to make a stack panel instead so that we can have multiple items available there. And we're going to be showing multiple text blocks with different versions of the content. So let's say, so we get that text block here. So we're going to be showing just, let's say, no selected date, just the relative source templated parent itself without showing anything else. See if that if we're actually seeing something that makes sense there. We're going to put it just to remove the style and make it very visible. That's the first one. And we're going to add the same thing, but without the converter. So we can see here that the original text block that was showing the text was having some converters. So we're going to see if there's something that doesn't work there. Okay, so let's try. So we've changed material. I'm going to rebuild the application and see if we can get that fixed somehow. So we're building the, let's see. So there was an exception there. So did I break something? It could be that I've broken something. Oof, yeah, it looks like I've broken quite a few things. Okay, so it says templated parent is not the right one. So let's move that to templated parent. Probably, yeah, I missed a curly brace here. So that's probably why it failed that much. So we know that the error messages are too big. They're containing a stack trace. So that's not that much readable. So we're going to change that and just show the actual errors so that it gets easier. The reason we have done this yet is we generally ask people to build the application for UWP first, where the validation for the XAML is done pretty efficiently. And then once that builds, you can go over to the other targets, and then it gets to work properly. We don't have to validate that much of the XAML, but it's something that we definitely need to change. So date text is already used in that scope, so that's correct. We're going to change that, so we don't need to name those. Let's try again. So that one is opening every time. I wish I could disable that window. I'm not using it ever. It always brings me, whichever the target, always brings me. It's weird errors. Yeah, so Euroshab is not supported by the Xamarin team, but the Kewa app has been using 3D model. Yes, they are using it, but they're using a JavaScript version of it to display 3D models. So it's not something that's actually cross-platform that much yet. So it's something that will adding support for that will be adding something that allows to give actual cross-platform. Eurosharp may be one of the targets that may make sense. I don't know if they dropped the support per se, or just because it's the lack of interest by the community, but who knows? Maybe the Uno platform community can change their mind. So we'll see. I mean, open issues. If you want to have support for that kind of features, just let people know. So DatePicker. So Uno themes here, and we click on the date here. So the date is happening here. So are we showing something right? So I'm not even sure if that's the right one. So Cupertino. So the date is showing up, which is good, but I'm not sure which one is showing up. So it could be just one of the two. So if it's just that one, that means it does show up in that application. So maybe we're not looking at the right one. So that could be some interesting thing. So I changed the templates already, but I'm starting to wonder if the issue is not, so this is the application that is for the Uno themes library, but we also have an application that looks pretty much the same, but that's running the Uno gallery instead. And it may be that the bug is not here, but it's in the other one. So let's see. So we have the converter parameter here. Let's do a test. Maybe that's the issue. So if I rebuild, does it rebuild properly? I'm assuming it does. But in between, we're going to go to Uno Gallery instead and clone that one also. Let's see. We're going to clone that one and see if that one is the actual issue. So we're going to clone that repository. Same thing. Try to repro this. So on Fluent for that one, so this one only tests Cupertino materials, doesn't test the Fluent because there's no need. It's actually a sample application that is used to be able to test the library on itself, not just show the whole set of features that are available as part of the Uno platform. So, and that's why the list is actually smaller. So let's go back to DatePicker again. So tests, that's good. So that's the one we're looking at, and it updates the date right away. So interestingly, there should have been other text, but because we were probably fixing the height, it doesn't show the rest. So probably if we change that, but let's not take a look at that one first. Let's go take a look at the gallery instead. So let's see if we can actually repro this first. We're going to update to the latest packages of Uno and see if we can repro this properly. So we're going to update all this material as well. Cupertino. Okay, let's update all those. So we're at Uno 3.8 developer bits. So that's what the canary that I've shown you is actually using. So it's using those bits for the latest. So let's do this instead. So now we also need to put in the linker feature. So that one is actually it's already disabled for that one. Okay, so that is linked to an issue in the linker. There's a performance issue that will be addressed by the .NET team. They're aware of it. They know what to change. It looks by the looks of it. It's just not there yet. But since it adds a significant amount of time for the debugging, for the building of the application, I'm assuming they're going to be fixing it at some point. But in the meantime, you can just disable the linker if you're not using AOT. Projects configured to use SSL. Yes, let's do that for now. Okay, so let's repro. Let's see if we can repro the issue for the components. So we're talking about DatePicker, and if we click here, change the date does not appear. Okay, so it repros properly. So now in this application, there shouldn't be any style override. So let's see if there are no styles for this. So the control itself is located somewhere in there, but I don't see it. So let's see. There's no style override for that one. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna override the style locally and see if we can get something more interesting. So not current project. We're gonna search for the entire solution. So we got DatePicker sample page. So in there, we're gonna get a few things. So you get the set date for the material template, Fluent template, and Cupertino template. Okay. So what we want is to determine why this thing happens here, given that for the other styles it does work properly. So what we can try first is determine if the binding updates properly. So you're going to do the same thing, stack panel, and add an additional text block here for now, for which we're going to bind something to that control. So we're going to call that date1. And then it will be binding, and we're going to use I think it's selected date, and the element name is going to be date1. So we should be seeing, when we're building the application, we should be seeing an additional date when it is selected. So actually, to be sure that we're properly seeing something behind it, we're going to use runs instead. So we're going to be using a run that says date property, and same thing for the run here. So we actually do see that because if the text is empty, we don't know if it actually printed something. So let's try again. Okay, so the application didn't build. So we can probably do the same thing that we did last week, which was make sure that we have all the XAML files being marked as up-to-date checks. We're going to do that just afterwards. So the application's building again. Let's see now what we have. So if we go back again to the DatePicker, so we have the date property showing up. So if we select a new date, so we can see here that the date property is actually updated properly. So that means that for some reason inside the text block is not showing up properly, or is not filled properly, because it's data bound to the same thing. So let's see, what do we see here as part of the date content that we have here? So we have a grid, we have a rectangle, a text block with a set date, We have another grid with a date. Aha. Okay, so that's interesting. So the date is actually available. So if I click again, yes, the date is updating. So the binding works. So that's interesting. So it's not a problem for, it's not a binding problem. It's actually something completely different. It's a problem with text measurement, probably. So let's see. We have a few things here. So we can take a look at the sizes for those controls. So we can see here that the control here has a width of 0 and a height of 0. So if any of the children has something to display, it won't work because the width and height is actually not available. So Cal, I think, is watching, and Cal pointed me to that bug saying it's a binding issue, but it's actually not a binding issue. It's actually a text measurement issue, or maybe it's a text measurement issue. So we're going to try to find out what happens there. The interesting thing is that it doesn't happen in the other in the other application. So maybe we need to be looking at something different. So let's see. We have another text block at the end. So I'm not sure exactly why that happens that way. There's an additional element afterwards that says 11. I'm not sure exactly why, but we're going to try to find out what that means. Probably it could be something that we're not displaying properly. Okay, so troubleshoot that. There are multiple ways to do it, but we can do that by overriding the style here and add another style. So it avoids having to override the styles manually from the DatePicker here. So I'm going to take again. Actually, we can probably remove those updates that I did originally because they're not useful. We know now that the problem is not about bindings. It really is about the way that the template is defined, probably because the text here is not the right one, or because there's a measurement bug, or I don't know exactly what that means. So that one is actually the content flyout, so it may not be the flyout. So that's the template for the flyout button. Maybe we're not looking at the right one. So let's see. Layout route. That's the DatePicker. So that's the button here. Text, that the content. Yeah, the content, that's the right one. So we're inside a flyout, but that's not, doesn't mean that we need to be changing this. Okay, so let's take the whole style and put it inside of our application to see if we can troubleshoot that differently. Okay, so we're gonna make a new section for resources here and just paste the style completely. And we're gonna name it My Material DatePicker Style. And we're gonna change a little bit the colors there. Let's put a background that looks intense. So let's make it intense, a red background, so we're sure that we're using the right template. Okay, so now that I've defined my material style here, I can go to the use of the DatePicker, and instead of using the material DatePicker style, use My Material DatePicker style. So we're talking about an additional style to define locally, something that you can do in your app by yourself, and have that work properly. And so now let's see what happens there. So try we run the application. So Cal is saying that who's responsible for text measurement? If I take a look at the last time that was changed, I don't think it was me. I don't think it was me. But originally, I admit that's me. I did that originally. I did the first version of it, but it was probably too naive at the beginning, so now it needed quite a bit of adjustments. Okay, so I probably have something that's not working. So not Windows here is not the right one. So let's remove this. And see if we have something different. So now that we have that application, let's go back to the date picker and see if we have something different. So this is our new style. And if we change the date, okay, still not working, but so now we know that, now that we know that it's the right one, I actually needed to change this. So a few things that we can do. There's a grid, there's some style there. We know that we do know that the placeholder is not showing up either, because it should be showing up. But is there? Oh, it's collapsed by default. Okay, so that doesn't help. So there's the day text block here. So that is not available as well. Let's see. Let's remove the converters first. See if we get something different there. And let's take out the styles as well. Maybe we have some weird behavior there that may impact the style. So if either of those two changes is doing something, so I removed the converter here, and I removed the style of the text block. So maybe there's something in that one that actually does have an impact. So let's see if that is the case. So we get date picker. We change the date. Nope, still not working. Okay, so it's still not doing anything there. And we can still see that this text is probably still available. So we can take a look there. Yes, so that's the date we selected. And it's still width and height 0. Okay, so still not that. Let's see. What can we do differently? So there's a few margins there. Text blocks. Okay, so what we can try is move the text block out of the grid. So we've made a few changes in grid recently, and maybe there's a problem with the measurement of that. So let's see. I don't know if we've added dip linking there. Would have been interesting. Date property. Ah, okay, so it's working outside of the grid. So I think Cal is probably having some light bulbs turning up because of that one. Okay, so if it's inside that grid, which has a margin and a height, a specific height, and a vertical alignment set to top, then the text block is not having anything working. So if we move that away, okay, so if we restore everything that was there originally, and let's remove the margin, for instance. Let's see if that does something different. So I'm not using hot reload for that one because it's a theme, it's a style, and we're not supporting updating styles in hot reload yet. But that's something that we're definitely taking a look at, because it does have an impact for developing your app faster. Okay, so if I do this, nope, that's not the margin. Maybe it's the height then. Let's see. So that would be interesting. So it could be that in those conditions, depending on, so the style of the text block doesn't change anything, but maybe, so there are other controls inside. There's one that's collapsed. Maybe that one has an impact. So maybe it's not related completely at all with with the content of the the options of the grid itself. So it's not that as well. So let's remove the last one, which is the vertical alignment. See if it's that one that does that. Yeah, show local visual tree. Well, that's interesting. That one is you're being able to do that. You have to be inside, so I could probably do that afterwards. Let's see. No, still not there. So it's not that either. So it's not the margin. It's not, maybe it's a combination of those things. So let's see, maybe it's something completely different. So let's take, so those two are collapsed. So let's see, maybe there's something that's associated to this. So I see that Blue Orange is asking about when we're fixing a command bar in Android. I don't know. It depends on what UWP command bar in Android is something that we're not always using. So so our clients are generally using the native command bar look for those. But it depends on what it looks like. Oh, not the right one. We've made some fixes, especially with regards to the grid that Cal has been working on. So if you can take a look again at that issue, and try reproing again with the latest bits of Uno, maybe the behavior has changed. So let's see. So it does do something different. Interestingly, it's removed everything up. So that's interesting. So I removed the placeholder and the text block, and that grid completely collapsed to something that only shows that. That's interesting. So it may be because of the height of the grid. So probably gonna have to keep the height of the grid. So the text is showing up, which is good. So it's definitely something that's related to one of those two items. So I'm gonna keep that, but remove those two. Let's see. Really feels like there's there's something that doesn't work there. So what we can do afterwards is try to do what Cal has been suggesting, which is just trying to use the show local visual tree, but I'm not sure if we can use that at that location because it's an internal method to Uno. So I'm not sure if that's going to be available because we're not inside of Uno. So it's still doing what it's supposed to be doing. So it changes the date, but that's not what I want. That's quite interesting. So we're taking a look at that one. We're using the right style, but removing those two is changing the style completely. But those two are collapsed. Well, that one's invisible, so opacity 0, and that one's collapsed. So changing the style for that one is completely changing the visual, which is quite interesting. Oh, it's in Uno's namespaces. Okay, so we can try to do that one then. So we're gonna try to get that one, the fly up button, and see if we can get something updated. Okay, so date picker again. Okay, so it's not showing up at all. So if I put the two items inside, the content disappears completely. Okay. And if I remove that one, I'm going to try the last one. See if it does something different again, but it feels like the collapsed item here is having an impact on that one. That's pretty interesting. Okay. Date picker again. Yeah, so for some reason and if I take a look again at the size of this, so it's height 20 with, but I don't understand why the rest of the control is being, yeah, that one's weird. Okay. One's very weird. Okay, so we're gonna try to do what Cal suggested. So let's take a look. So that one is showing up properly. So what we can do is so we're inside of a control that can take next bind, so that should be working. So let's say if we name that control, so if we name the control here, so it actually has we put it a date already, so that could be possible. Okay, so if we do this, and then in here we do so we're inside of UWP, but if we go to WebAssembly, I think we're going to get the right one. No, not this one. So I think it's we're going to be going to DatePicker. So we're for those with for this IntelliSense feature, we're taking a look at .NET 6. That one is going to be helping quite a bit for having updates and you know, all that working properly. So no more squigglies that are you know, showing up here. So everything's going to be managed by Roslyn generators, and that's going to help. Yeah, putting a breakpoint, I'm not sure that's going to help. So I'm just going to be showing that directly in the debugger. Okay, so it's going to be date 1. So I don't know if I'm not even sure if that one's going to be picked up properly, because it's inside of a it's inside of a data template, so I can't get it directly. So I have to do a find by name. So let's do that. Let's do this first. So that's going to be unloaded, and then unloaded, we're going to do a find by name. So the reason we can't get it is because it's inside of a data template. So that one is materialized only when the control is loaded. So yeah, well, there's a good reason why the auto completion it doesn't know what to do with this because it's unknown. So I guess they could just not autocomplete it. That'd probably be best, because they don't know what the type of this. So they're just guessing variables, you know, that don't make sense. So let's do this. So it's date 1, and we're going to do a find name. So we're going to pick up the control that's named date 1, and it has to be a. Actually, let's do that. Let's do it that way. Is DatePicker. Is DatePicker, and then we're going to be hooking onto the date change, and we're going to be doing the method that Carl suggested, which is show local visual tree. I'm not even sure if, yeah, no, it's not. That one's internal, Cal. I don't think it's available right away. Or maybe it's let's see. We get net standard here, Visual Studio Extension. So it's on UI element for some reason, but maybe, yeah, maybe if I include Uno UI at the top, maybe. Let's see. DatePicker doesn't, yeah, it's probably, I don't think it's defined as part of the, yeah, it's not available in the net standard reference. So no, we can't call it there. So it's a method that has parameters, I think. It's not too bad. Okay, so let's try it. Let's try the hacky way. We're gonna do some reflection instead, or maybe let's try it. Oh, it's actually it's a method that's public. So it's public, but it's not. It's an extension, so it cannot be called from the outside. So show descendants is something that's not available publicly as well. It's available publicly, but it's not something that we can call. Okay, so we're gonna do view extensions. We're gonna do some reflection. It's not particularly pretty, but let's do it that way. So it's gonna be type method actually. So I'm gonna uno.ui.view extension. And then let's do it that way. Type so view extension. Then on view extension, we're going to try to get the we're going to get the method. So view x.method get method, and that one is called show local visual tree. Is method, actually we don't need that, we can just do this. Show method, so that one should be there. And then afterwards it's a method that we can call directly, so we get invoke, and that one doesn't take any instance, so that's a static member, but takes a few parameters, and it takes the picker as a parameter, as well as, if I remember correctly, an integer, so we need to put 0 instead. Okay. And it's not happy because it has to be an array, I think. It's implicit typed array doesn't work as well, so it needs to be that one. Okay, so we should be having a string as a result. Yes, we need to fix this. So that would be the output, and we're going to be showing this directly in the output. Okay. So, well, actually, let's put this completely there. That's going to work. And the get type, so we're type.get type. That should be enough. And I think I'm probably missing a semicolon somewhere. Okay, so there we have it. So we get the view extension, then the show visual tree, and then we're going to write line the content. We're going to have to make that method public for sure, because it's very useful to troubleshoot what happens. And I don't think we need to yield that way because the date changed. But yeah, sure. Let's make it async for now. Just to make sure that the content is actually read-run properly. Okay, so let's yield there. And we're going to make sure that we have the right things. So just to make sure that we're not able to cannot find, and just in case we can't get the types or the method, cannot find the show local visual tree. There we go. Okay, so that should be enough. Oh, and that one as well, just in case we can't find date one. So we'll see what that does. So we're going to take a look at that output in the console of the browser, not in the debugger for now. And we're going to see if we can see the actual visual tree for that. Okay, so let's go to components and DatePicker. And if we select something here, cannot find Uno UI view extensions. Okay, so probably it's not there, either they're not right name or something else. Maybe I need to type it explicitly. Let's see, Uno UI view extensions in net standard. So it may be related to the fact that type.get type is not getting the right thing. So let's see if we can if we type it explicitly. So we need to maybe pass an assembly explicitly. Let's try again. No, the linker is disabled, so it's not linked out. So it's still there, that's for sure. Well, if it still doesn't work, we're gonna go take a look and see if it's been linked out or not. But I don't think it is. It has been linked out. So let's see again. There it is. Okay, so it was not linked out. It's just that you have to specify the assembly name when you're doing a type.get type. Otherwise, it will not be get out. So this one's actually interesting. So type.get type is actually it's doing lots of interesting lookups, and it uses the current stack to determine what you can take a look at or not. And if for some reason in the current call stack the assembly that you're looking into is not there, then it will fail. So if I remove this, then because Uno is actually calling this directly, then that may have been working. But because we have an await here, then the color of this line is not Uno, it's actually something else, probably a JavaScript method that invokes this directly. So I'm not exactly sure which one that is, but you have to specify the assembly afterwards using a comma. Okay, so now what we're looking for is something that tells us that the text block that we're showing up is not getting the right size. So the one that we want to get, so this actually dumps the visual tree using names and sizes and location, and I don't know which one that is. We're going to take a look at that in the code. Horizontal alignment, vertical alignment, thickness, and a few things like clipping and others that make troubleshooting a little bit more easier. So that's desired size. Yeah, there you go. So so for instance, we can see here the desired size for that layout route was 8753, and it actually got laid out as 296 and 53. So it actually, the container, so the DatePicker allowed for 53, which is what the right one, but vertically that it allowed a lot more than that. So when we take a look back at the template here, we can see that the text block that we are looking for is actually the date text here. And the date text is not having the right size. So in here, we can see that it's been measured at, so it desired 71 and 19, and it got laid out as 0, 0. So it may be that the grid is doing something funky with regards to the fact that the placeholder text is, I don't know, not visible or something like that. So let's see if we set a placeholder text so that the control is not the control is actually visible. So we can see here that it's collapsed. So let's do this. We're gonna make that one visible, forced visible actually. So that one would be visible, and we can see if that changes something. So we're going to take a look again at the output, and we're going to compare if we actually see something different between the two renderings, if the sizes that are reported are the right ones. But it looks like we've actually found a bug in the grid, the new grid. So we imported the code from WinUI for the grid control, and it's actually behaving a lot better. But we need something different. Okay, so let's see. So now we have a placeholder that's actually visible. It's still not doing anything, but still getting 0. The placeholder text is visible, still not showing up anything. Okay, so maybe it's the opacity. That would be very odd. So it's still getting laid out as 0. Okay. So that's not that visibility. There's a margin there, but maybe that's very odd. Okay, so let's take out everything from those. So we're gonna have to take that code and put it out into a sample app to see if we can repro this, because obviously there's something very wrong here. Yeah, still not showing up. So for some reason, there's something happening with the combination of all this, and that makes it not show anything up. So what we can try, see if we can reproduce this inside of the canary bits of the Uno platform. So let's go find that one out. So we have the canary version of the playground. I'm going to try to reproduce this in the playground. So if I paste that code here, and I say, so the style is not useful, the text is going to be something. So I have text here that shows up, so that's not that. It shows up properly. So there's something here. So it may not be just the grid here. It may be because of the parent, because it's not related to the content of the text block there. Okay. So let's see if we can pick up more of what's around it. So there's another grid. That grid has a corner radius. Okay. Let's see if that does something. Okay, still working. If I add a corner radius, still working as well. Height has a height. Aha. Okay. Okay, so it has a height, but I don't know what that height would be. Let's see. It has a height of 53. So it's still showing up. So that's not the problem. Okay, so it's not reproducible easily on the other side. So it's not related to the text block. So let's see if I remove one text block. Yeah, ordering the order of the children. That could be interesting. Trying to change the order of the children. It feels like a set of conditions based on the parents and not the control itself. That is super odd. I don't understand why removing the last text block is doing that much of a change. It's kind of like adding that text, or the first one is ignored for some reason, or... Okay, so let's change the order of the text blocks, for instance. See if that changes something up. Does it look familiar, Carl? Does it tell you something about the order of the text blocks? It feels like we've done something wrong there. Okay, let's try again from last time. Otherwise, it's going to be something for next week, I think. DatePicker. Okay, so the order is actually doing something. Is it doing? No, it's not doing something. I removed the text block. So no, it's not doing anything, but it really is about that text block here. Are we doing something with that text block? Maybe I wonder. Oop, nope. So I thought we had an up to date. No, we don't have up to date. Probably going to add that's going to make it easier. Okay. DatePicker. Okay, so So text block empty is making the grid completely empty. Or actually the whole control being completely empty. So I don't think I'm going to be able to debug that one very easily. So I think Kyle is going to have to dig into that one a bit more because it feels pretty odd. It feels pretty odd. So I don't have the exact repro for that one. It looks like we're setting the text somewhere, and then it changes the behavior somewhere. We set the text, and removing the text there is doing. Yep. Okay. So so that will be it for today. I don't know what that issue is. So at least we know that it's not a binding issue. So that's pretty good. But we're gonna be digging into that one for sure with the team, because it's not working properly. It's not supposed to be hiding controls that way. So so stay tuned. I'm probably going to talk about that one next week once we find what that was. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. I hope it was interesting for you as it was for it was for me, because I got to dig into a few of the things with the Cupertino style and material styles that I have not looked at because the team has been working on it. And thanks, Steve, for all this. And so see you next week. And if you have any questions, just let us know and drop by onto our Discord channel or give me a follow on Twitch. And see you next week. Happy coding. Bye.